The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kelly Zonderwijk with Arlington County staff working on the Arlington Green Games, and want to welcome you to our second webinar for office tenants on the Green Games program. This one is for those who have registered for the program early on and are ready to get started completing their scorecard and want to learn just how to go about doing that and all the details. Just a little bit about the program, about today's webinar first. We encourage you to join using your telephone. In the audio section of your dashboard for the webinar, you'll see a dial phone number, an access code, and an audio pin, and it's important that you enter each of those numbers when you call in on the telephone, so this way during the Q&A period, if you have any questions, we can go ahead and unmute you properly and you can ask your question. If you prefer not to join via telephone, if you're listening through your computer speakers, that's fine, but just know that during the Q&A session or at any point during the webinar, please type any questions that you might have into the chat window, and that way we'll be able to answer you. We'll read your question aloud and answer you verbally that way. You can also click the raise hand button and we'll go ahead and call on you to ask your question verbally if you're on the phone. We are recording today's webinar and it'll be available on our website soon. Our first webinars are already posted to our website, so you can go ahead and download those if you'd like. Today's agenda, we got started a couple minutes late. Wanted to give folks some time to commute into work with all the bad weather. We are going to basically just go through the entire scorecard for office tenants. That's how your participation in the program is going to be measured. We want to go through the different sections. It's an online-based scorecard, so we want to make sure that you understand how to complete it. And then we want to switch over to an organization called ICLEI, which is Local Governments for Sustainability. And they were responsible for launching a similar program back in Chicago last year. And they have some tips that they've learned through their office tenant track of their program. So they'd like to share some of that and some of their results from last year. And then we'll turn it over for questions and answers. So just a quick recap on the Arlington Green Games. It is a friendly competition. It's structured currently for commercial property owners and managers as well as office tenants. Buildings will compete against buildings and offices against offices to see who can reduce costs while reducing their energy and emissions. It's a highly interactive program. There's lots of trainings in addition to the webinars. There'll be in-person trainings and networking events throughout all of 2011, and all of that information is on our website, so we encourage you to get those dates saved on your calendar and get yourself registered for any of the webinars that you'd like to attend. So just real briefly again, how property managers compete. We know you all are office tenants on this particular webinar, but it's important that you understand how your overall building, your property managers can participate. That's primarily through a green action tracker that we've developed online on the website, and something called Portfolio Manager, which is a free tool through the Energy Star program that will measure their energy and water consumption of the building. They'll also provide information on their waste diversion as well as the number of tenants in their building participating in the program. And you'll see on the right the kinds of goals that they'll be setting at the start of their participation, and at the end of the year-long competition we'll see just how well the buildings have been able to achieve the different goals they've set for themselves. For you, as an office tenant, again, your participation is measured through a Green Action Scorecard. There are 6 categories plus a category for innovation, and it covers 30 different action items. The categories: energy, transportation, waste, water, materials, employees and outreach, and innovation. And there's a total of 100 possible points, and as you'll see there, energy and transportation are obviously the highest categories. You can earn up to 30 points in the energy category. You'll take your scorecard in the beginning of the year, work as a benchmark, and then work to make improvements over your year-long participation in the program. Just a few quick tips before we get started showcasing the scorecard. We encourage you to review the scorecard prior to logging on to the website and completing it. We think that there are probably other key staff involved in your company that you want to include in answering some of these questions. It might be a purchasing director, somebody from your IT department, someone from your HR department, just depending on how you're structured and how much you know of different internal operations of your company. We encourage you to run some of these questions and answers by them. We also think that this is a great opportunity for you to host your first Green Team meeting. Maybe before you complete the scorecard online, you want to gather individuals who are interested in helping you participate in this program together, share the scorecard that way, and get everybody's input as to the different answers that you want to provide. You should be prepared to complete all questions of a category of the scorecard before you begin. This will definitely help your participation. Only one username and password per company. So if you have had one or two individuals from your company register for an account on our website, only one of those individuals should be submitting the actual scorecard through their account. You can share accounts, that is, you could give somebody else on staff your email address and the password to be set up on the Green Games website, and they can log in and see information that way just as you can. But again, just one username and password per company. The first scorecard is only a benchmark. It's used to really help focus your participation where necessary throughout the year. So if you do really well in the energy category, but maybe not so well in the employees and outreach, then you'll know where to kind of focus your efforts, which trainings you want to pay particular attention to, that sort of thing as you go through 2011. We've met with several of you already individually. We're looking to host follow-up one-on-one meetings with each of you, with each of the competitors. After you've completed your scorecard in the first quarter of next year, we'll set up some meetings with you to just kind of run down your answers and see how we can be of assistance to you. And then once again, just make sure that you remember this date, February 28th, 2011. That is the date that your initial benchmark scorecard is due. So with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague Sarah O'Connell, and she's going to go ahead and use a dummy account we've set up and showcase the scorecard and how you'll fill that out.
Hello, everyone. Again, this is Sarah O'Connell, and I'm working with Kelly here in Arlington County on the Green Games program and the Fresh Air program. So what I'd like to do now is to walk you through the online scorecard and complete some of the sections and show you how things work, where to find information, how to view your results. Now I'm at the home page for the program right now, which is arlingtongreengames.com. And I have already logged in with our sample account. And you can tell because you see up in the top right, My Home and Log Out buttons right at the top right. When you're not logged in, you'll have two boxes there to provide your username and password. So now we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Once you log in, I wanted to start with the home page, but when you go to your personal landing page, you are going to have a personalized dashboard, which looks just like this. So at the top box there, it'll provide your specific information, identifying yourself, your organization. It has the reminder again up here in bold red about the due date for your first scorecard, and a quick box at the top of your total score. So you can see that right now that is currently 0. Nothing has been completed, but we're going to walk through this, a couple of the categories, and you'll see how that score will change as we complete some of the sections. Scrolling down the page, the middle section here is the actual Green Action Scorecard. So you'll see the landing page is again the reminder of those all-important 5 steps to working on energy and sustainability practices within your organization. So a reminder again about the process we're encouraging all of our competitors to be mindful of as they work through the program. And Kelly had mentioned a great tip, an idea, which is to review the scorecard before you come back online to actually submit your answers. And the way to do that and the way to share it with others is to download a PDF version of the scorecard, which you can find right here on this page. You'll see below the Start Scorecard button is the Download Our PDF Green Action Scorecard and a link for the document there. So that's a really quick and easy way to share all of the questions and categories with others in your organization, or just to have for yourself as a reference. But now we're going to go ahead and jump right into the scorecard. So I'm going to click the button. And now you'll see that in that middle section, we're into the first section of the scorecard, the energy scorecard. But you will see all across the top there, you'll see that energy is bolded, but you'll see the other 6 categories up across the top as well: transportation, waste, water, materials, employees and outreach, and then innovation. So the way that these scorecards, the scorecard works basically is like 7 different scorecards, essentially. So you will take these one at a time. You can take them all in one sitting, or you can take one. Perhaps you already know the answers that you'd like to provide for energy, but you're not quite sure about the other sections. You can take the energy scorecard, save it, log out, and come back later that day or another day to complete the other section. So the system will allow you to do that. And now we're going to go ahead, we're going to walk through the energy scorecard, and you'll see the 7 questions listed here. And what we're going to do is answer these questions. I'm going to point out some of the features of each of the scorecards for you too as we're going through. So you'll see the first question: have you assessed your energy use? For each question, it will tell you the total possible points that you can earn for that question. Each question also provides a link for learning more information about that action item. And when you click on that Learn More link, you will get a little pop-up box that will provide basically a description about what that action is, why it's important, and a link for more information or a specific resource that could help you to address that specific action within your organization. And a reminder, too, that all of these basically tips and tricks are housed on the main public area of the site as well. So under the How to Play tips and tricks is where all of that information is also housed. But it is within the scorecard, as you can see. And then moving down, you'll see for some of the questions, it will say, if yes, choose all that apply. If no, leave blank. And that's really important. Other questions may be choose only one answer. So be sure to read each question and directions very carefully as you're working through the system. For each of the possible answers, it will provide the amount of points that are possible that you can earn for that particular item. You'll see that those point values are indicated in the green text. Also, some of you may be pursuing LEED certification for your offices. If so, the text here that follows the point values will be important for you to take note of, which identifies for you which of those actions or items actually earn you credit in the LEED rating system. And that will be consistent throughout all the 7 categories. So now I'm just going to go ahead and select answers here and complete this scorecard and show you what happens when you do so. And just moving right down here. And then I wanted to also point out a couple of questions, encourage you to provide some details or description about a specific item. So for example, on question number 6, have you worked with your property manager to assess the energy efficiency of the HVAC equipment in your office? You'll see for either of those answers, there's a link here to share your strategy. And just like the Learn More links, it'll pull up a pop-up window for you that will have a text box where you can enter your answer and click Submit. And then you can close that out. Finish your scorecard. And when you're ready when you've completed all the answers, you can click Finish. Do want to point out a couple of notes before I click that button. And the note again, if any of the items on that scorecard are no, or if the answer is no to all of them, you still must click Finish to submit this category. And you need to do so by February 28th, which is again the deadline for completing this benchmark. And then your results are going to be saved under the Your Results tab, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. But I'm going to go ahead and click Finish. We want to be able to show you what some of the messages are going to be. So you'll see first that up in the dashboard that my score has now changed to a 13. And the results screen that I'm now seeing for energy tells me that I earned 13 of 30 possible points and gives me a nice recap of how I answered each question, how many points I earned for each question as well. And then we'll go ahead and move on to, I'm just going to click through a couple more of these categories, and we'll take another one to show you how, again, the score will change. So you'll see here for transportation, 5 questions there. And again, these work as basically separate scorecards, so you don't have to take all 7 of them at one time in one login session. You can come back later if you need to. But you do need to complete each section at a time. So you can't answer 2 questions in the scorecard and save and come back. So you do need to complete each section at a time. And you do so by clicking that, again, that Finish button. And now we're in water, showing the five questions. And again, across these 7 categories, there are 30 questions or action items. So you'll see for the most part, there's just a handful of questions per category. For materials, you see there's only 3 questions there. And now as we move over to employees and outreach, we'll go ahead and answer the questions in this scorecard. Do you have a designated sustainability coordinator? Again, want to point out the possible points values, which are, again, in the green text, and a link for learning more. The importance of a green team and some tips and resources. And here's another example of a question where we're asking for just a little bit more description from you. Again, wanting to click that Submit button to make sure it gets included. And just before I click Submit, I want to again point out right now the score is 13 out of 100 possible points. I'm going to click Finish. And now you'll see the results of the Employees and Outreach Scorecard, earning 7 of 10 possible points. You'll see on my dashboard, my total score has changed to 20 out of 100. And on the results, again, showing me how I answered each question. And I wanted to show you also what happens if I go back to the energy category, which I know we already completed and submitted. If you log out and come back later, you will get notification that you've already submitted that scorecard. But you are able to submit a revised version if you need to. So if you look at your results and you decide you need to make a change to one of your answers, you can certainly do so as long as it's before that February 28th deadline. Now what happens when you submit a revised version is it is going to delete all your previous answers and reset your points for the category. So you'll see I'm at a 20 now. We're going to do this just so you can see what happens. But before we do that, one recommendation is if you do have to resubmit something or change any answers, it is good to view and print your previous submission before doing so you can kind of have that information for reference. And all of that is under the Your Results page. But what we're going to do is click the Submit a Revised Version. And you'll see now that up on the dashboard, those 13 points have been removed from the total. So now I'm back to 7. And it gives you the note here that you've lost that 13 points. You're now back at 0. Click the Continue to go ahead and retake the scorecard. So again, if you need to make any revisions, please do so. And just keep in mind that February 28th deadline. So you'll see that the scorecard has been refreshed here, so none of those answers are loaded. And so once you've completed all of that, or at any point that you want to see your results, you click on over to the Your Results tab. And here we go. You'll see your total score across all 7 categories. Now again, although we took the energy and employees, remember we reset the energy scorecard, so that's showing a 0. But we'll see that those 7 points are coming from employees and outreach. So you're getting your total score, but you're also getting your breakdown per section or per category. And then below those scores, you'll see your history in taking the scorecards. And this is actually our sample account. So we've taken these scorecards previously, but what we'll show here is the results of any of your previous submissions or your most recent submission, along with a date and time stamp. So I want to point out that although we reset the energy scorecard, you can view the latest submission here. So you'll see it's right there with how we answered each of those questions. And then once you resubmit that category, that most recent submission will replace that version. So you'll always have your history there, your most recent history. So that is the scorecard. So you'll see it's fairly simple to use. And we tried to make sure that you have some history there, some points of reference. Again, we encourage you to preview the PDF version of the scorecard in advance and share that with any others within your organization that might be working with you on this program and your participation. And just become familiar with what those 30 actions are and really thinking about how your organization is currently addressing energy and these other sustainability topics. All right. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Kim Brokoff of ICLEI. Kim joined the Programs and Innovations Department at ICLEI as a program associate earlier this year. In this role, Kim supports the on-the-ground efforts of the Chicago Green Office Challenge and expanding the challenge to the 5 pilot communities of which Arlington is a part. So with that, let's turn it over to Kim.
Thank you. Happy to be here today to talk a little bit about the experiences that Chicago office tenants had in round 1 of the Chicago Green Office Challenge. Just wanted to share some best practices that we heard from our participants and share them with you to get you excited for the Arlington Green Games. So for those of you who are not familiar, the Chicago Green Office Challenge started with ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, in the city of Chicago. We partnered with them in the creation of this program, and it first launched in 2009. We finished up round 1, and we're going to start round 2 shortly. For our tenants, we have a similar milestone process that Arlington County does. Excuse me. We encourage all of our tenants to assess where they are currently by creating a baseline scorecard. So that's the same scorecard that was just mentioned that needs to be submitted by February. Set the goals. We encourage our tenants to establish which tier they'd like to be in and what actions they need to achieve in order to reach that tier, and that's part of the create a plan and implement the plan process. There are trainings held throughout to help everyone achieve their goals, and then the Mayor Daley of Chicago and Chicago Department of Environment recognizes everyone's accomplishments. So our criteria for office tenants is pretty similar to the Green Game program. We have 5 categories, as you can see here: outreach, waste, energy, transportation, and property manager engagement. And we also have 4 tiers of achievement, with tier 1 being the highest tier. So as I mentioned, we just wrapped up round 1. We had about a little over, as you see, 100 tenants participating, and we had 17 reach the highest tier. And you can see the majority of our participants were in tier 2. That's pretty exciting because we had some people start in tier 4, a majority start in tier 3 and tier 4, and you can see we really had a lot of success. And people really achieved their goals and ended up in tier 1 and tier 2. So that's was really exciting to see. Also wanted to share some scorecard tips and tricks that we found from round 1 of our program. We found that creating a green team is by far one of the most helpful things that you can do to get started. So that way it's not just one person working on all of the actions on the scorecard. If you have a team, you have your support system, and you also hopefully can have different levels of management involved in your team, so that way the company is on board and aware of what's going on and is supportive of your efforts. We recommend our participants, whenever they complete a baseline scorecard, that they only record what your office is currently doing. We had some tenants who tried to do all of the actions before submitting a baseline, but the beauty of the program is you have an entire year to try to increase your score. So the baseline is just a current snapshot of where you are, and then you have the remainder of the year to periodically update your actions once you've completed them. And along with making the green team, we also suggest, meeting monthly or quarterly, depending on, kind of where your company is with sustainability efforts. But, also determine what you want to achieve with each meeting. So, it's perfect because there are 7 categories in the Arlington Green Games, so you can tackle each of those categories at each green team meeting and say, okay, what can we accomplish? What have we accomplished? Fill out the scorecard together. Makes it really easy, and it's much more fun to work in a group. But it's also important to educate other employees in your company besides just those on the green team to let them know that your company is participating in the Green Games, why they're participating in it, what the company's goals are, and then celebrate success. If you reach your goals or if you achieve all the points in a certain category, make sure everyone knows and thank them for making it possible that your company is achieving a high score. We also recommend updating the scorecard once an action is complete. It's really handy since it's online, so instead of waiting until the last minute and trying to remember everything you did all year, it's really great just to update it while you go throughout the year. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Arlington County's got a great training schedule, so hopefully they'll provide many helpful tips along the way. But also, if you ever have any questions, we found that some of our participants were afraid to ask or thought they were the only ones with that question, but once we answered it, they were much more comfortable continuing with the program, and we would hate anyone to not participate just because they weren't afraid to ask a question or didn't know how to do something. So never be afraid to ask for help and have fun. As you're going to see in a little bit, we have a lot of best practice tips that we found from our participants, and people got really creative, and it was really exciting to see, and we're looking forward to what comes out of Arlington County as well. So outreach was our first category, and we found that a lot of companies did a lot of different things to engage their employees. They would show movies, so anything, gosh, from trash to dirt to any movie you can think of that is sustainability related in nature. People showed it during lunch hour, and they'd also have a lot of brown bag lunch events, so inviting their coworkers to bring their lunch to a meeting so that way they can inform their colleagues about what the green team was doing. And they also had a lot of fun contests, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. We also had an innovation category, and we found some really interesting things that people were doing there. Some people composted in their offices. People recycled a lot of other things, such as packing supplies. One company saved all of their peanuts and either donated them to UPS or FedEx or just reused them when they sent something out. People recycled jeans to make into insulation, and we counted all of these as innovation points as long as it was something above and beyond what was required in the scorecard. We had one company evaluate what they offered in their vending machines and made their snacks healthier and tried to get them those that were made locally if possible. So we thought that was really interesting. And then we had one law firm, Levenfield Pearlstein, which was one of our Tier 1 participants, created an environmental citation. And this is what it was. It was a notice of violation. And it was supposed to be fun. You can, I don't know if you can read it at the bottom, but it says, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and try to have an open mind and comply with environmental guidelines if possible. So they said that they would fill this out and leave it on someone's desk if they, for example, let's see, contributed to U.S. reliance on foreign oil, mocked other members of the Environmental Task Force. So you can see they tried to have fun with it, but this was something really innovative, and we love seeing stuff like that. For energy best practices, the ability to monitor your energy use is fantastic. In Chicago, a lot of our tenants have their energy use rolled into their lease so they don't have their space submetered. So we found that if you can actually measure what all the actions that you've put into place, such as computer shutdown campaigns, changing light fixtures, etc., if you're actually able to monitor your energy use, that makes a big difference, and it's something to celebrate. We encourage do-it-yourself energy audits. We had one company that said they realized they had a lot of light switches that they didn't even know what they went to, so they went around every light switch, tested them, and then they used green stickers if they were lights that were used often, and red if they were lights that weren't used that often. So you walk into a room and you switch on all 4 switches at once. The thought was if you see a red switch, maybe you don't hit that one because that one's supplemental lighting and not necessarily task lighting. We also had McGuire engineers create a solar guide so that way employees knew which way they should turn the blinds depending on the time of day in order to either get max sunlight and warmth or to shade it if it was in the summer, so that way it wasn't making the HVAC system work harder. You can see here's a quote from McGuire engineers. Just from that and many other things that they did, they were able to lower their energy use by 10.8% and save about $600. And they said 2010 bills are already much lower than 2009, so that was really exciting for them to see. For waste, we had a lot of people create or modify their purchasing policies to make sure that what they were purchasing was 30, 50, 100% recycled content. Paper, pens, etc., just their basic office supplies. People, updated their kitchenettes and stopped having styrofoam cups, stopped using plastic and paper utensils, and instead filled their cabinets with actual plates and cups and forks. So that way there was less waste created in the kitchens. This is one of our favorite best practice examples from PepsiCo. They tackled this all on their own and actually counted as an innovation point as well. They noticed that they had quite a bit of printers, not all of them used, 72 as you can see. They reduced them down to 35 printers, saving them $25,000. And they also decreased the actual amount of paper they had to purchase 230 reams from 344 that they were offering. So some great success there, just analyzing how many printers that they had weren't being used, and so it saved electricity because they didn't have to have all of them running, leasing, and paper use. And they also changed them all to double-sided, so great success there. Transportation, we found a lot of companies didn't have or weren't familiar with transit benefit programs, so exciting to see some of them begin those programs with their employees, do contributions, pre-tax dollars to local transit benefits. One of our employers, GATX, did a really fun contest where they sold jean days, so you could wear jeans if you paid $5 or $20 for the whole week. They also sold raffle tickets, and their goal was to offset their carbon emissions, both their car emissions and travel. And as you can see, they were really successful, offset almost 600 tons of carbon emissions, made a donation to a carbon offset project, and they had a really great success, and it was fun. And they educated all of their employees about the benefits of carbon offsets in the process as well. And property manager engagement practices, we also had some great things come from this category. We had tenants coordinate with their property managers to encourage them to participate in the program. We had property managers come back and create building-wide green teams, so that way they were sharing with their tenants what they were doing, and tenants were able to get assistance from their property managers when filling out their scorecard too. Some would say, hey, we get points if there's a bike rack in the building. Is that something you can offer? And property managers say, okay, well, if enough of you are interested and want to use it, that's something that we could look into. So had a lot of great success in the property manager engagement area as well. And as you can see here, another one of our participants, Crow Horwath, you can see their quote there. They were able to contact their property manager and learn a little bit from them, which was part of our goal. So just to give you an overview, as you can see, most of these are behavioral actions as an office tenant, and these were some of our top actions with our tenants. As you can see, recycling always at the top, which is great to see. And as we mentioned, green teams really contribute to a lot of success in the program. It was great to see that that was so high as well. And just so you also are aware, we did have about 40 property managers participating as well, and that's where we got a lot of our actual metrics from. You can see had an average energy use reduction of about 8%. We had 72 million kilowatt hours reduced, which equated to about a $5 million savings. And it was great because as tenants of a property manager's building, the actions that you input actually can have a bearing on your property manager's energy usage as well if you don't have separate sub-meters. So by working together, definitely able to see some great results. And that's it. My contact information if you have any other questions, but hopefully next year we'll be hearing from you guys all of the exciting things that you put into place. So best of luck to everyone.
Great. Thanks so much, Kim. So that pretty much concludes today's webinar. We want to make sure that if you have any questions that you get an opportunity to ask those of Sarah and me. So what we'd like to do is just kind of open it up for Q&A right now. It looks like most of you are connected just on the computer. So unless you have a microphone on your computer, we won't be able to call on you by name. If you do have a microphone connected, please click the raise hand button, and we'll go ahead and unmute you to ask your question. And alternatively, you can type any questions into the chat window, and we can go ahead and read those out loud. So we'll just give you a minute to think of any questions you might have just generally about the program, or if you have any questions specifically about filling out your scorecard, how to do that, the trainings we're offering, anything that you can think of, now is a great time to ask. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions, so we just want to give a quick reminder of some upcoming events to mark your calendar. Again, all of the events are planned out. All of our Webinar Wednesdays, Mingling Mondays, Timeout Tuesdays. You can see all the topics, the locations, how to sign up on the website under the Events tab. But January 5th, we will be repeating this webinar. That's after registration will close. January 10th is our first Mingling Monday breakfast, and January 25th is our first Timeout Tuesday Brown Bag Lunch series. So definitely mark your calendars for those events. We also just want to ask you that if your property manager is not competing in the program, and on the website you can see a list of current competitors. It's still early on in the registration period. You are early adopters. But we would certainly love to reach out to your property manager if they're not registered. And also if you have other office tenants, other tenants within your building that you know of that you would either feel comfortable personally reaching out to or letting us know the company so that we can reach out to them, that would be great. And you can also earn a point on your scorecard for referring other companies to the program. So keep that in mind, but they will have to register soon, so we just want to encourage you to get on top of that sooner rather than later so you can earn that point. And that about concludes today's webinar. So thanks so much for joining, especially on such a crummy, rainy morning. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.